Hey, Chicago, what do you say? It's the CHGO Cubs Podcast. We're Monday through Thursday live at 1:20. We tell you about nothing. Luke Stuckmeyer, Corey Freedman, Cody Delmendo, still waiting on Jed Hoyer and the crew. I want to start with a big thank you today, okay?
Credit to you.
And the thank you is to all the people in the live chat, because I don't know how we're going to get through this offseason without that live chat. Like, I greatly appreciate, and we all greatly appreciate everybody that listens to this podcast on Spotify or Apple, wherever you listen in podcast form. By the way, give us the 5-star review. We'd appreciate that and a thumbs up. But the people in the live chat get us through the live show with the interaction and feeling like we're not just sitting here alone staring at the screen thinking, when are the Cubs going to do something? And guys, the Bellinger stuff is still that's become the next big question, right? First it was Shohei, and then it was Yamamoto, which lasted for a split second, and then it was Glasnow, which lasted for another split second, and now we're sitting here waiting for Bellinger news. And I saw Jesse Rogers put out an article for ESPN Chicago, and basically he was saying, listen, guys, if you think Bellinger is going to be here by Christmas or even New Year's, wherever he said, celebrating with his new team, which also is bad news, he said, you're crazy. And he talked about the fact that a lot of times an executive said that Boras clients, which we know, more than happy to take this into March, February, March, one of those two. Let me just tell you, if Bellinger hasn't signed by the time March comes around, Cody and I will be swimming in Lake Michigan together. And by swimming, I mean drowning.
Yeah.
Because I can't take it
anymore. You don't want a Jorge Alfaro jersey for Christmas, or is that not?
That doesn't even count.
I'll take, who's the other guy, the minor league guy that signed yesterday?
That doesn't count either. Minor league invites
Thomas
don't
Pannone
count.
or whatever?
I don't know. Yeah, I genuinely don't know.
Left-handed reliever.
Listen, anybody could be the next Mike Tauchman, which would be great. But I'm not gonna. I'm not gonna
Put
celebrate
some respect
it
on Mike Tauchman's name,
That's
man.
right.
Comparing him and Jorge Alfaro as a Jorge Alfaro stand since like last week, that's some disrespect to my guy Mike Tauchman, brother. All right,
Palatine Pounder,
right?
Pride of Fremd High School.
Our friend Gary in the chat pointed out I guess this is news coming out of Japan. Outlet out there says that looks like Yuki Matsui, likely signing with the Padres. So that's another reliever off the board. I knew the Cubs, like, there was interest there, but if you want the good news is that he's not going to the Cardinals either. I knew the Cardinals were interested in him as well. So I don't know, man. Like, I don't know what to tell you. Like, it's another guy off the board. Like, I guess in some aspects I'm kind of like, I'm not even like upset, because it's like right now I care more about the offense than I do pitching. So it's it's one step at a time. But I didn't mean to veer us off from the Bellinger stuff. I'm just like, it just kind of goes in with it. Like, I don't know. I'm not surprised that Bellinger. The Bellinger market has moved slowly. I mean, whenever me and you did the grading for Bellinger or whatever back in October, and we talked about the reports that were coming out of MLB trade rumors and other reports saying that it's likely to go into January. Like, I'm not surprised that Jesse Rogers is saying that, and I'm also not surprised that he thinks it's going to be a new team, because I think he's been pretty adamant that he thinks that Bellinger's not coming back. And it's just going to be a really hard, spin zone for the Cubs to the fan base if Cody Bellinger's not here and they don't add anyone else either. That's gonna be an all-time spin zone for them to try and convince us that maybe this team will be good after an 83-win season, which honestly should have been a 90-win season if they just didn't blow a bunch of games and outperform their expectations. So again, like I keep saying, I'm holding until Cubs convention on flipping out on the front office and all that. I think that I have to be fair until all scenarios are gone. And I don't think it's going into March or February for Bellinger. I think it will be January sometime. But this is just like this is the annoying part is just dealing with Scott Boras. And I know he's just trying to get the best deal for players and stuff, but Scott Boras is a big reason why this market is always like this. I feel like every single year it moves slow at certain points, and I do think it has a lot to do with Scott Boras. And Ryan said this like a week ago too, like the fact that there's just no salary cap. So
yeah, I mean, and I think ultimately maybe the Cubs have several things going on, but part of it seems to be, and I don't know what the number would be or the years would be, but like, you do get the feeling that they are waiting. The Cubs are okay waiting because they would prefer the market come to them. And the danger with that is that it may not. And it gets to a point where if you really want the player and you really believe that we need Cody Bellinger, we tried on Ohtani. He didn't want to come here, but we were ready to give him $500 million, but he didn't want to come here. Fine. Maybe you put in an offer for Soto, but they like the Yankees better. Fine. If you really need Cody Bellinger, like, go make him an offer that I don't want to say that he can't refuse, but you run the risk that I said this when I talked to Brendan on Friday. Where I am with this offseason is, of course, there's plenty of players left. There's plenty of time left. There's plenty of routes for them to get where I said I wanted them to be, which was the best team in the NL Central, no questions asked. But the Bellinger stuff is a good example that if you wait for the market to come to you and you wait for other teams to get desperate and you let things turn into bidding wars and stuff like that, you don't control. It's a two-way street. You don't control this all the time, right?
Right.
Like if Toronto gets nervous and says we're going to give Cody Bellinger 10 years, $250 million or $300 million, and he says, hey, I would have come back to the Cubs, but you guys are sitting around and you're nowhere close to that, then what? So I don't know. And like, I see the comment in the chat about why would you make a huge offer for Bellinger if you're bidding against yourself? I don't get the impression that they are bidding against themselves. I think there are some teams that are legitimately interested, and they don't have to go the Bellinger route. All I'm saying is if you want the player, if your offseason hinges on the player, sometimes you have to do what is necessary to get that player rather than risk him finding greener pastures. That's all.
100%. Cody mentioned we shouldn't be surprised that this is dragged on with Bellinger, and I totally agree with that. The problem is what Corey's been saying. We didn't expect that the Cubs would be empty-handed heading into Christmas, or New Year's, or whatever it might be. Like, that's fine if Bellinger hasn't made up his mind, and that's why we were concerned that Bellinger might not come back to the Cubs, because we thought Boras would take this long and thought, well, the Cubs can't wait that long. The Cubs are going to have to make some decisions because they have multiple holes to fill. They're going to have to wait and see what happens with Ohtani. Okay, they did. But now, striking out on some of the other things that have happened, now Bellinger becomes more and more of a priority if I'm Jed Hoyer. At least he should be. And we think the Giants are looking at him. We know the Blue Jays are looking at him. And Corey's right. The longer you let it drag along, by not just giving him whatever the extra bump is. We're now hearing multiple reports out there that saying Boras has always wanted way more than $200 million, and he's not budging. They're playing a game of chicken with the Cubs. I just think it's not a dangerous game of chicken for Cody Bellinger and Scott Boras. It is a dangerous game of chicken for the Chicago Cubs because Bellinger is the perfect fit for this team. Even if you're still worried that there's going to be regression because his exit velocity was low last season and there's going to be regression, which I actually look at that, not being a stat guy, Delmetrics, any of it, I look at it and say, don't worry about it because he was a different hitter last season than he's ever been in his career. How so? 2 strikes. The guy was willing to play Mark Grace out there and slap it into left field, which, by the way, was something the Cubs desperately needed. That's why their record was like 7 games over 500 with him in the lineup. That's why they were scoring more than a run a game more with him in the lineup last year, because when he got down to those moments where he did get 2 strikes, He did something better than almost anybody in baseball last year. He choked up, and all of a sudden he decided, you know what? I'm not even thinking about the extra base hit. I'm just going to get on base here. I'm going to move the base runner over, and we're going to continue on. That's a major sacrifice for a guy when he knows he's going into a big contract year like this. Defensively, we know how great he is of a fit for this team. He can fill your void at first base. He can slow down the PCA train if you want to in center field. He could play any outfield position, right?
Yep.
Like, what's not to like? Every player's going to have some sort of drawback. We know that he could fall back and be a guy. Any contract could be a bust. But the thing I saw last year from Cody Bellinger was he was willing to do anything for the team. Mm-hmm. And he excelled at everything. So I don't think it's a game of chicken the Cubs can afford to play much longer. I agree, Corey. I think they have to put in an offer that at least makes Bellinger say to Boras, maybe I should take that.
Well, and that's if they view him as their guy. They don't have to go the Bellinger route. There's other ways to improve the team, but when you miss on some of the other guys and you wait around, he sort of starts to look like the only real option that they have. Right. I see a lot of people in the chat talking about a potential trade with Cleveland. Like, I know Shane Bieber has been someone they've talked about, and there's other names on Cleveland that you would be interested in. I know Josh Naylor comes up a lot. It's not happening, but like I would pay anything for Jose Ramirez. Separate issue. But if they are working on a bigger trade, great. But I don't think even the hypothetical Guardians trades fix all of your holes. There's ways to get a lot of help if you're doing a multi-person package and stuff like that. But unless Jose Ramirez is coming back, basically what I'm saying is like that's a good like supplemental way to fill some of the holes, but it still isn't answering your star in the lineup, left-handed slugger, all those things. And as we said at the start of the offseason, like you have to replace Cody's production. So one way or another, you need to find someone that's doing that. And I'm not sure any of us agreed that was even enough.
Yeah.
So that's where it doesn't have to be Bellinger, but if he's your guy, you might have to go and get him.
We wanted two left-handed bats going into the offseason.
They have so many.
What if you're going to subtract one and not get the other?
Right.
Like right now, without Bellinger, the only lefty, you have two left-handed hitters, and one of them probably going to start in AAA next year, PCA. After that, it's Ian Happ, who's obviously a switch hitter, actually. So, like, they have a lot of right-handed bats, man. And even some of their young guys are right-handed bats. Like Canario hits right-handed. There's so many reasons why Bellinger should be on this team, and it's just like it's literally writing on the wall. My thing, and why I continue to remain pretty calm on this, is just like this has to be the most important offseason of Jed Hoyer's like Cubs tenure as GM. Like we're going into year 4, bro, and like
one would think,
and you're coming off a September collapse. You got ownership openly saying that they are angry about how things ended. Like we talked about the Cubs convention schedule yesterday a little bit, and like I know everyone doesn't agree with me on this, but like I generally don't care if he's there to like say whatever and answer all the stupid questions that honestly never really answer any of the real questions that we give a shit about.
Right.
But like to me, like if nothing happens, like if nothing major happens to at least to where the team is at least as good as it was last year, to me that's all on Jed Hoyer and Carter Hawkins. It has nothing to do with ownership. I think ownership ownership has openly basically put all of the eggs on Jed Hoyer whenever things aren't getting done. Thomas said multiple times, like Jed has the resources, blah 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 this, blah 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 that, and I know that it felt like there were a few years there where he seemed like he kind of disappeared. Well, he's answered questions. He's within the last year and a half, he has answered questions. He has talked to, reporters, whoever, about this type of this conspiracy or whatever, that he is the one who's not letting Jed spend the money. I generally think at this point, if nothing happens with this roster,
significantly to make it at least the best team in the NL Central like you're wanting and like how we all should want considering how the year ended, it's on Jed to me. So, I don't know how Jed can
last year they spent a pretty solid amount of money relative to how much they won. It's not a great return if you look like around the
outside
league.
of Swanson and Bellinger.
Yeah.
I
mean the payroll in general, the full payroll, for that level of wins is not.
Fair.
You're not getting a great return on what you're spending. It was an expensive 83-win roster. That's what I mean.
So, that's again, this is why I'm kind of just like waiting it out a little bit. One, because there's just like no one has really made any major moves outside of the Dodgers and the Yankees with the trade for Soto. But Jed has to know this is like his job has to be on the line in some aspects. If the Cubs aren't good next year, that's on him, man. Like he's got to feel some sort of pressure here to make this team better. He has he's been given the time. He's been given he made the farm system better. All these things. He chose the direction he chose at the deadline in 2021. Well, that's the summer of 2021. We're going into 2024. Whenever when that deadline happened, he again rebuild. That I was told it was it wasn't a rebuild, even though it's a rebuild. But it would just be asinine if they don't fix this roster to at least make it a real contender in the division at the very least.
The one thing, they have to finish the offseason as the favorite in the division. A real contender in the division, I can't do. I really can't.
Like I said, at the very least.
This division's horrid.
They have
no one else in the division is truly there are periods in our life especially where the Cardinals are really, really good. They are spending a solid amount of money. They get all those comp picks for free, and they build a really good roster to be a legitimate threat in the National League. They're not doing that right now, at least of this moment. Milwaukee's going the other direction. They lost a ton of brain power. There's reports of them maybe moving guys, things like that. And, the Reds and the Pirates are the Reds and the Pirates. They're doing their best, but they don't ever really fully invest, and they're not run that well. This is a prime time in the NL Central. You got to be more aggressive. And it is a weird spot because, there's time left, and I know people are impatient. I'm one of them. Trust me, I've been very impatient. There's paths left, there's time left, there's players left, but I understand, there's a lot of holes on this team, and they haven't addressed any of them. So I understand why people are getting impatient, and they're not necessarily just giving Jed the benefit of the doubt. What I need from Jed to reverse is he just has this reputation and a feeling about him that he is too conservative in a situation that doesn't work all the time. And that's the sort of reputation of his that I really need him to prove people, myself included, I think, wrong. I always go back to Andrew Freedman has a really good quote, the president of the Dodgers, from, I think, when he started his tenure there. If you're rational about every free agent, you're going to finish third on every free agent. And I always think about that. And I don't want them to overpay for Cody Bellinger. I don't want Cody Bellinger on a 10-year contract. Why would anybody want that? Of course not. But if you aren't aggressive enough to get stuff done, you just end up in this thing where you're patting yourself on the back for not having any bad contracts or regretting any trades. And it's sure, but then you don't get better players. You have to take risks to...
It's almost
to get where you want to be sometimes.
The only way that's proven wrong is if you develop really well and a lot of those players, become stars.
Yeah.
And that's honestly the flip side of that. I would describe the Braves as that. It's not like they go out and spend a ton of money on people outside the organization. They have developed everyone that's in their lineup. Riley, Acuna, Albies. They traded for Olsen, so fine. Have they paid those guys? Yeah, and somehow, some way, the agents for Albies and for Acuna are just idiots. Yeah. But again, they developed well. Michael Harris, Rookie of the Year 2 years ago, batting ninth in their lineup this past season. they have developed really well. And that's
and
the
then
thing.
they strike when the iron's
Yeah.
hot. Go get Olsen. Go get Murphy to catch.
Right.
Like, you do what you have to do. And, hey, like, if you can do that when the Cubs were able to bring up so much talent in 2015 and 2016, and, of course, they supplemented over the top. They spent when they had to.
Did they get Lester at some point?
That's great.
They got Lester at some point.
John
right?
Lester?
John Lester.
Oh,
yeah,
do you want to
just
talk
make-
about John Lester?
Just making
Don't
sure.
let him start.
But I think when I was listening to some of the quotes, I think from Carter and Jared Banner and Jed, and again, I know it can be posturing. They can be doing stuff behind the scenes that makes all of this conversation look ridiculous in 2 weeks, right? Maybe. But what I was concerned about in those quotes, when they're talking about, like, we don't want to block the young players. We have a lot of guys coming up that, you know, we're excited about this, that, and the other. Who are we talking about, and what is that timeline? Because also then I would look back at last year and even the year before and ask you, well, when did that priority hop into everybody's mind? Because Canario played one game after he hit a grand slam, right, for like a month. Morel, you didn't bother to find a position for. Like, first base, even though Mervis struggled, and I'm not necessarily a Mervis believer, but you gave him 100 plate appearances, not breaking camp with the team to play a bunch of old garbage at first base and DH. So then I'm looking like...
Respectfully.
If you're... disrespectfully, actually. When you look at, like, this offseason, if it's like, okay, like, we don't want to go crazy on free agents, we don't want to, you know, overpay for a third baseman to then block some of these other guys. Like, sure, I understand the general logic, but what timeline is that? These guys aren't ready yet. You played PCA for 2 weeks in the middle of a pennant race, and he didn't look ready yet, which is fine. But then it's like for this year, so like who are we talking about? What is that timeline? Are we waiting for Owen Casey to prove he's a MLB level, like, left-handed power bat? I mean, we're going to be waiting to spend money until you and I are 50 years old.
Yeah, just
like
don't-
at some point, I get that priority, but one, you can't wait on it. If we were waiting on Brennan Davis to take
Correct.
over center field, we'd still be waiting, and that's to no fault of Brennan's. He got hurt. But that's the risk with prospects. So it's just like the balance of, like, I understand that, but you didn't really seem to prioritize that last year outside of the pitching side, where you gave Assad and Wicks real runway to, like, show what they could do. But on offense, like, who are you waiting for?
Well,
who are
and
you
this- just
talking
don't-
about that we're trying not to block? Like,
Just
what are we
don't
talking
give
about?
away no trade clauses like they're going out of style, like the Blackhawks did at one point, and it basically handcuffed their whole franchise. If you don't give away no trade clauses, that's the ideal scenario. You have a veteran player that's really good, but the young guy comes up and pushes him out, and you can replace him with a cheaper version halfway through. That's what you want to have happen. I'm not worried about if Shaw's a good enough player, he'll find a way to be the third baseman for the Cubs eventually, but that doesn't mean he has to be the guy this year. Heck, you might sign a guy and just have to be able to trade him halfway through the season to somebody else. That's okay, too. I just think Jed Hoyer loves, you were talking about, he has this, right or wrong, people view him as sometimes it's his way or the highway, and he wants to err on the conservative side of things. Okay, I think it worked out in the Dansby Swanson thing, but he admitted it was this close where he thought, I might be missing out on this thing. He got lucky. Swanson took it, wanted to be a Cub, loved everything. His wife was already in Chicago, like a lot of things aligned already. In this offseason, potentially two of the biggest targets for the Cubs, Ohtani and Bellinger, are in the driver's seat. He's not in the driver's seat for these deals.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, you may have to go above and beyond what you're comfortable with doing to get these deals done. Obviously, the Ohtani thing didn't work out. Maybe he didn't even really consider the Cubs, as everybody has said. Bellinger is at least considering the Cubs. We know he liked it here. So you're going to have to go out of your comfort. I'm not saying the 10-year deal. Then give him some. Listen, the Dodgers gave Ohtani what is basically a 20-year deal. You think they're comfortable with paying somebody for 20 years? No, but they did it.
Yes.
They did it, so of course they are, because
they're
it's
going to make money hand over fist.
It's a
They don't
creative
care.
way of doing it, and
Yeah.
Bellinger's not Ohtani, okay? But you have to go out of your comfort zone a little bit to get a player that seems to be a perfect fit, left-handed bat. And not only that, if he is blocking somebody at a position, center field, that you think you can replace him at a lesser price, great. Bellinger could be traded down the line, or he can be moved to another position, first base, which is still a problem, or any outfield position, or heaven forbid, some leg injury happens and he's like Soriano the rest of his career. You can still make him the DH. Like, there's so many ways to still make that contract okay, and he's at a young age. He's in his prime.
Yeah, it's not like he's 32. He's 28.
I just don't think it's a game of chicken the Cubs can win.
Well, and, like, you look at the roster right now, like, they're not held back by long-term, big bloated contracts.
They're finally done paying Jason Hayward.
Yeah, like, and what held them back, I mean, most of the longer-term deals they've signed, even if it's an extension, you feel good about. You feel good about the Ian Happ extension, Nico Horner, the contract that Dansby's on. Like, those things aren't holding them back. What held them back last year, as Brendan always likes to say, is that you wasted a bunch of money on the aforementioned garbage that then when you got to the deadline, you had to make a decision of if you were going to acquire certain people, you'd be pushing into a new luxury tax threshold. So you wasted $10 to $20 million on supplemental depth that did not supplement or provide any depth. And then you still were looking for that. But I'm just saying that because it's like, I think people are like scared of some of these long-term deals. And of course, some of them are insane. Like, what did they give, 13 years for Xander Bogaerts? It's like, yeah, obviously that's insane. No one is sitting here regretting that they didn't do that or suggesting that they should be giving out 30-year contracts. Like, no one wants that. But I don't really think that's what we're talking about in a lot of these situations. And like... yeah, I just think somebody just said it in our chat. I can't remember who, but like, you have to be willing to like play a little bit in the deeper end of the free agent market or get comfortable moving prospects. You can't do neither.
You can't. I don't want them to give away all the prospects. I have a question. So let's say it's Bieber and Naylor, right? And the price is higher than the Cubs want to pay in prospects. Would you rather have them give away the prospects, and I know Bellinger only solves one, or would you rather have them spend a little too much money on a contract that's a little bit too long for Cody Bellinger? And people say, well, Cody Bellinger is going to regress. He's going to do this. You don't think Bieber has some question marks too? You don't think Naylor could regress?
Bieber has a lot of question marks.
You don't think Bieber could go back, right? You don't think Naylor could not be that guy? Like, every player has some risk. I'm just saying Bellinger – on paper and in person last season looks like the perfect fit for everything, and I would rather have them overspend in years and in money than I would have them overspend on prospects that would allow you to bring that payroll down in the future. I'm not saying don't make deals. I'm just saying if you're gonna err on the side of we went too far to go get player A, player B, player C, I would rather have them make that mistake with money than instead of with prospects.
Yeah, I agree. And, to kind of close out on this related to Bellinger, like I'm not going to be able to wake up in February, whenever, and be able to look myself in the mirror and think, we really let the Toronto Blue Jays outbid us for Cody Bellinger. That's you want me to get a little irrational. You want me to get a little scared. You want me to be, what I normally am. Like, I can't do that. I don't know how that's going to be. Again, the Cubs will have to have the biggest spin zone of all time if they miss out on Bellinger and he goes to the Blue Jays. You can't lose. You can't get outbid by the Blue Jays, man. You just can't. And this isn't disrespect to Canada or Toronto or whatever, but you're the Cubs. You're the goddamn Chicago Cubs, man. You cannot get outbid by the Toronto Blue Jays.
I don't think they know that. We all say that, they're the goddamn Chicago Cubs. They don't. When's the last time they acted like that?
Well, I know.
They don't know. And I'm not saying you don't know that, but just hearing you say that, I'm like, we all say that. I wish they would say that and act like it.
I just think that it would be an incredibly bad look to get outbid for the best player on your team last year to the Blue Jays, man.
And I didn't catch the name. I saw somebody in the chat say, save those resources for Soto next year. Listen.
I'm not going to talk myself into that.
That was the Ohtani dream. Save all the resources, go get Ohtani. You know what? They get outbid.
Yep.
And don't think that the Yankees aren't going to have just as many resources to be like, we're keeping Soto.
I'm done. Yeah.
Like,
I'm
done
move
saving.
On. And
we've
saved for too many things.
Yeah.
We were saving for Bryce Harper. No.
We were saving for Machado. We were saving for, I don't know, what other names?
If you keep saving for a Bentley, you're never even going to drive a Yugo. Do you know what a Yugo is? Do you remember those cars? They were like the cheapest car on the road. Basically, it was like Adobe Clay.
I'm just in a place where like I understand that there's ways forward. There's players out there. There's definitely stuff that they can be cooking up behind the scenes. Like, not everything has to be transparent in the rumors. But I'm trying to square that with just being, like, generally annoyed at how, like, lackluster they appear to be acting, and watching other teams really, seriously, like, put themselves out there and be aggressive and take they're not taking no for an answer when it comes to how do we get better and win a World Series. And it just doesn't really, like the Cubs, now we're talking about like, well, we want to pair the free agency with, the pre-arb prospect guys coming up and stuff like that. I'm like, all right, yawn. Like, call me in 2026 when you guys are serious again. Like, I'm trying to square it all. One part is rational and like in real life, and the other is like, listen, I just want to watch them be good. Like, right. I don't care about long-term timeline. Right? I want to go to a playoff game, Cody. Like,
same. I guess I know Luke wants to read this ad, but like, I
got my readers on.
Yeah, he put his readers on, and he
that
gave
was
me,
the sign,
and he gave me the look. My guy Robert Murray on his podcast yesterday said that the Cubs and the Red Sox are going to start getting aggressive here in the next couple weeks. So he's someone I trust. So I don't know what those moves will be, but I'm willing to continue to wait it out.
Maybe Jed just really likes the holidays and he wants to get through the holiday season. And then
I just think he likes to make us all like. I feel like
New
sometimes
Year's resolution.
He's just trolling us. I think he's just trolling us right now.
It's working.
It is.
You got me.
Yeah, he's trolling us all.
He's saving his first move for a New Year's resolution on January 1st. Listen, everything's a gamble. Free agency, trading, all of it is. Prize Picks, though, is the largest daily fantasy sports platform in North America. The easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports is just you against the numbers. Instead of battling thousands of other players, including pros and sharks, you pick more than or less than on 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch the winnings roll in. Prize Picks is the most fun I've had since winning. I won up to 25 times my money this basketball season. Don't ask me how, but I did it. You just select 2 or more players, pick more or less on their projected stats, and place your entry. With basketball season here now, you can pick combo projections across football and basketball from the Specials League, a league created specifically for combo projections that include 2 or more players from a different sports league. For example, DeMar DeRozan plus DJ Moore at 10.5 combo of 3-pointers made and receptions. Now, quick withdrawals, easy gameplay, an enormous selection of players and stat types are what make Prize Picks the #1 daily fantasy sports app. Go to prizepicks.com/CHGO and use the code CHGO for a first deposit match up to $100. That's prizepicks.com/CHGO. Use that code CHGO. Daily fantasy sports made easy. And by the way, holiday season, you want to talk about a gift? If you're in the market for a new vehicle, and if you are, then we have some great news for you. Our partner, Ray Chrysler Dodge Jeep and Ram in Fox Lake, is making room on their lot for incoming 2024 vehicles. And you know what that means. They'll be able to let you shop incredible savings on every new vehicle in stock during their limited time wrap up the year's sales event. For a limited time, get up to 15% off on a new 2024 Jeep Grand Cherokee with dealer's discount. At Ray CDJR, you're always able to shop one of Chicagoland's largest inventories and drive home with more money in your pocket than you'd expect thanks to Ray's Price Promise. Don't miss out. Shop great deals all month long and save big because Ray CDJR makes buying a new vehicle more affordable than ever. But that's not all. Just for listening, you can get a free oil change when you mention CHGO at the service center or mention CHGO when you book online at raycdjr/service. Hurry in. Must book before December 31st, 2023. If you're in that market, don't miss out. Our friends on Route 12 in Fox Lake have you covered. For more information, visit Ray CDJR in Fox Lake or raycdjr.com. Serving the community since 1963.
Nothing gets me fired up like you reading a car ad.
Woo! Let's go get some cars.
Galvin316 in the chat asking, Cody, when's the next late night Cubs therapy session? Last night, me and Brendan were doing the Twitter space. It turned into me thinking, oh, yeah, I'll do this for like maybe 45 minutes because I wasn't tired. And then it turned into me doing a Twitter space until 1:30 in the morning. That was probably the happiest point of the offseason for me because it was so much fun. So, yeah, maybe we'll do it again tonight. I don't know. Maybe tomorrow. I don't
Bears
know.
fan man in the chat asked if I would keep my season tickets if they didn't make any significant moves. And Bears fan man, the answer is yes, because I am an idiot. So drink to that.
But he's
that
our
makes
idiot.
Me happy
He's our idiot.
That makes me happy because at least I know I can always go sit with him
Right.
at the ballpark.
Cody's thinking free seats.
We're keeping our season tickets too. So no reason to get rid of them.
CHGO, should we get some season tickets? That's an idea.
Get like the 20-game package or whatever.
Yeah, sounds like a good idea. Hey, so while we're talking about the Cubs and how nothing has happened all offseason, and we do it every day, Monday through Friday,
I'm going to need
120.
therapy after this session, or this segment, by the way.
Jeff Passan put out that graphic, I think it was like 2 days ago.
Either yesterday or
was
the
it
day
yesterday?
before.
Yeah. Talking about, the teams that haven't spent in free agency. The Cubs so far, don't count these minor league deals, please. They are one of 8 teams that have spent zero so far in free agency. Zero.
Nice.
Now, here are the teams that I want you to really focus on this list. If you're watching on the live YouTube chat and on YouTube, that's the best way to enjoy the CHGO experience because you can get in the live chat and you can see all the great graphics on the screen that Sarah put together for us. Shout out to Sarah. Here's the teams to focus on. The Royals. The Kansas City Royals right now are outworking the Cubs $105 million to nothing. Do I want the players they signed for $105 million? No, not necessarily, but they still have spent $100 million. I'm just saying, the Royals $105, the Cardinals $99 million, the Reds $87 million, the Tigers $42 million, the Brewers $10.5 million. Dare I say, the lowly, pathetic Chicago White Sox, almost $17 million they've spent already, and the Pirates even the Pirates have spent $3.2 million on free agents. You see that list? You heard me, Sean. The White Sox have outspent the Cubs this offseason. If we get to January 1st and the Royals, Cardinals, Reds, Tigers, Brewers, White Sox, or Pirates, if any of those teams on January 1st have still outspent the Cubs in free agency, Corey should trade in the season tickets.
No, I mean I appreciate the dramatic nature of that tweet from Passan, but
needed some music behind it,
they'll
really.
spend eventually. I think the question will be if they did enough to get us where we want them to be, but they will spend money. They'll address some of these holes. I do agree with some of the conversation of personally, I find it odd that maybe you don't go out and get like a cheap reliever or two just to sort of knocking stuff off the to-do list. But
like Brent Suter, why isn't he a Cub
It
yet?
is possible that there's just stuff that they have cooking that they need. You were all in on Ohtani to a degree. Maybe you're talking to Cleveland now. So I think they will spend money eventually. But like I said, I understand why people are impatient and they're frustrated because even saying that, it still feels like, man, they all said they weren't good enough. They were all pissed off. Tom was reportedly pissed. Jed is pissed. And, here they are having done nothing, next to nothing. It's a couple minor league guys. So I understand why people are frustrated and impatient and don't necessarily just want to hear they'll spend, they have to get back some of this stuff. People don't necessarily want to hear that, right?
Cody knows how much I hate a West Coast game that goes into extra innings with a post-game show that goes to 1 o'clock in the morning.
I do.
This offseason has been 10 times worse.
That's saying
I
something for you.
cannot take it anymore.
I know
do
how
think
much
we need,
if
like,
it was
I can't
up,
take it.
If it was up to you, they'd play like 6 innings and then
That's right,
and
yeah.
not even complete the entire
There'd
game.
be a slaughter
so
rule, all that
that's-
stuff.
That's saying everything coming from you, Stuck. I generally side with Corey on this. I mean, $99 million from the St. Louis Cardinals. A large majority of that is Sonny Gray, but they picked up washed Lance Lynn, who gave up the most home runs in baseball last year, on top of Kyle Gibson, who gave up the most hits in 2023. I mean,
I'd take Sonny Gray though right now.
I mean,
If you told
yeah,
me the
Sonny
Cubs had
Gray
added
is
if
Sonny Gray is a good
Absolutely.
move for
You
them.
told me
He's
the
a Cy
Cubs had
Young
added
finalist,
Sonny
wasn't he?
Gray to their rotation. I would say improvement, good depth.
Absolutely.
But all I'm saying is that, and it kind of goes with the Royals as well, but it is also impressive that they have spent that kind of money, because the last time the Royals were relevant, I was still in college, and I'm 32 now. So, like, it's cool to see a team like the Royals, like, be aggressive, especially since they have a superstar type player in Bobby Witt Jr., so they're trying to build around him and do something there. But, like, it's just, like, I'm not judging all of this based on on anything at all. I mean, even the Yankees traded for Soto, but they haven't spent any money either. Blue Jays, they've been in every single rumor, all of that. They haven't spent any money either. There's plenty of teams that are just like the Cubs in this scenario. So, yeah, it definitely makes you frustrated. I mean, when Passan sent that tweet, the Bears had just ruined my day like an hour beforehand. So, I mean, I'm like, this is like piling on, you know what I mean? So, I don't know. Like, it's you don't win the offseason in November or December anymore in this league. You win the offseason when the offseason's over. Or you decide who wins the offseason when the offseason's over.
Edward in the live YouTube chat asked, "Are you guys running out of things to talk about?"
Like 3 weeks ago.
Duh.
What are you talking
Yes,
about,
I'm
Edward?
losing my freaking mind, Edward.
You want me
That's
to?
what I'm
I can
saying.
sit here and talk
Thank-
to you about sports betting for an hour every
That's
day.
why,
if you
that's why I
want.
started the show by saying thank you to everybody in the live
Credit
YouTube
to
chat,
you.
because without Gary and Barb and the Godfather and Becky and Edward and all the people that are here every day, like, without them, where would we be? I would be on the floor right now.
I recommended we talk about Christmas today. That
We-
was my
we
recommendation.
almost did.
Yeah.
And don't be
probably
surprised
Thursday.
tomorrow if we start talking about Christmas foods.
Yeah.
It could happen because that's where I'm at now.
We could talk about how good Derek Lee was in 2005.
Okay.
We're just shouting out random things
There's
we
a
can
topic
talk
for
about.
tomorrow.
There you
All
go.
right,
Yeah,
let's do
okay.
it. Derek Lee.
A retrospective on Derek Lee's 2005
Shane
season.
wants
Corey
us to
Patterson from Brian
serenade
Roberts.
him with some Creed, you know?
Yeah, Ryan is on a good path too, like Corey Patterson for Brian Roberts. We could talk about the
That's a hot one.
free agents that never came to be. I was ready to watch Jake Peavy as a Chicago Cub for
Let's
like
say,
5 straight
Oh, yeah.
years.
We could do a
Singing
draft
Go
of
Cubs,
all
go in
the-
bars.
You could do a draft of just all the players the Cubs, like everyone thought were going to be Cubs but weren't Cubs.
I think Jake Peavy's number 1, isn't he? That rumor
Has to
was
be.
him or Brian Roberts, at least when we were young.
Yeah.
Like, and I was like first getting onto like internet Cubs forums. Those were the 2 guys. It was like every year.
Chris
they're getting
Archer, even
those
though
2.
he originally was a Cubs prospect, then they traded him for
Start
Garza.
naming random Cubs. We're just gonna sit here.
well,
and
we
like
might just
every
talk about-
5 seconds we each just.
I mean, we've mentioned Tony Campana no less than 10 times in the last month. You
That's
don't think
my
it's
guy.
getting slim
It's 'cause
around
he's
here?
my guy, you know?
Cody, in Nashville, we'd be driving by a car or a slow car at a red light, and Cody'd be like, Tony Campana's faster than that car. Then we see somebody, on a scooter. Tony Campana's faster than that scooter. I mean, that's what we're up against right now. Steven
Yeah.
says, I need Sunnyside. I need
Like, has
something.
anybody ever
I
done
just-
an episode on like how good Randy Wells was that one season?
Oh.
You know, how about
Oh,
that?
yeah.
Who's talking about that?
About John Lieber?
Randy Wells.
Yeah.
That's a
You
name I
know,
forgot
what we should
about.
do is
Always up for an interview.
We
with
should
Randy
do
Wells.
an entire segment on how to make the baseball offseason better.
I think they got to speed it up.
Has to.
'Cause,
They
like,
have to
you
get,
need,
they have,
like,
It's
Yeah,
not
it's
just
gotta
the Cubs
keep
not doing
condensed,
anything. Like,
yeah.
a lot of teams in the league haven't done anything. You know what I mean? Like, you want to talk about big market teams that haven't done anything? I mean, the Red Sox haven't done anything.
Yeah.
Like, Craig Breslow, year 1 as the guy for them. And they did sign a reliever that I was like, oh, this is the Craig Breslow special. Like, no one ever heard of this guy. He's going to turn into like a a high leverage guy for them next season. Like, I was like, man, I'd take one of those right now. You know what I mean? But like,
I love in the
that's what
chat.
I need. I need the baseball offseason to be good again.
I'm not sure how to pronounce his or her name in the chat.
It's
but
Mike Taylor.
G. McGinn, a few up there. He said
Oh, yeah.
Todd
G.
Walker.
McGinn.
Todd Walker
Yep.
or Mark Grudzielanek. I love that question. I love it.
I'd take Grudzielanek.
I loved
Trick
Todd
question.
Walker.
The
When he
answer
came
is
over from
DeRosa.
Boston, he had that like gritty kind of like feel to him. I
Left-handed
love Todd
swing,
Walker.
those are a lot more
Absolutely.
attractive. There was something about Grudzielanek, though, man. I love Grudzielanek.
Yes.
He-
We are
he-
off the rails.
Hell yeah.
All right, without looking, spell it.
Oh, no. Grud and Zelonic.
Z-I-E.
It was always a beer money
L-A-N-E-K.
question. I always had to look at the card to spell it. It was a $100 question, too. Cody, tell us about CIRCA Sportsbook.
Well, since the Cubs aren't doing anything, how I've been passing the time is just betting on every single thing I possibly can. I've been doing that at CIRCA Sportsbook, guys. The tight money line splits are what makes CIRCA one of the best sports betting apps out there. Games will strive to be a -110 split on the CIRCA Sports menu, unlike other sports books, which may use -115 or -120. CIRCA Sports keeps as little money as possible on large market bets, especially compared to other books. They don't limit players based on their winnings. Every player has the same limits, unlike other books who do limit winning players. They actually encourage bettors to download and explore all sports betting apps available to compare those lines from other books and to see how much CIRCA really doesn't take away from you. And then finally, their customer service is my favorite part. There's real people there behind the CIRCA Sports brand who resolve issues in a timely fashion, unlike other books who use chatbots. All right? I hate chatbots. All aspects of the app are being run by the same team that runs the main CIRCA Sportsbook at CIRCA Resort and Casino in Las Vegas, the second greatest place on earth. If I didn't count Wrigley Field at all, then it would be the greatest place on earth. All right? Download the CIRCA Sports Illinois app at circasports.com/Illinois-app to sign up today. Also, be on the lookout for CIRCA events, watch parties, and tailgates. If you or someone you know may have a problem with gambling, call 1-800-GAMBLER, text GAMB to 833-234, or visit areyoureallywinning.com.
Yeah, chatbots are the worst. That's the equivalent of that is like having me answer IT questions on the phone for people.
Or like anything about technology.
You're not getting any help. You're not getting any help. You're just going to get more questions back. Yes. Can I help you? What can I help you with? Did I fix your problem? That's the worst. What is the best is Midtown Athletic Club. 4 Chicagoland locations. Palatine in the northwest suburbs. Who goes there, Cody?
Mike Talkman.
Palatine
my
Pounder.
guy.
Yep. Bannockburn in the North Shore, Willowbrook in the southwest suburbs, and the Midtown Athletic Club and Hotel in the middle of Bucktown and Lincoln Park. It is spectacular. Now, don't forget the one in Palatine just launched a new multi-million-dollar transformation of the club. That's going to be complete in early 2024. So right now, through the end of the year here, listeners can get favorable rates if you join before the end of the year. This is the time to lock it in. They got something for everybody, whether you're single, whether you got family with kids, maybe you're looking to make a lifestyle change for a New Year's resolution, holistic wellness, whatever it might be, this is the place to go. Midtown Chicago is the nicest fitness club I've ever been in. Amazing outdoor and indoor pools. They've got hot tubs. They've got saunas. That's how they say it in Finland, by the way. High-intensity interval training. You can go boxing, yoga, spin, cycling, cross-training, group exercise, you name it, and the best tennis courts available in the area and programming in the sport. Midtown has indoor and outdoor tennis, pickleball, paddleball, USTA, professional quality all the way. Head over to midtown.com/CHGO to find out more and to tour the Midtown Athletic Club nearest you. Cody pointed out that Jared Banner was talking recently. Assistant Cubs GM, correct?
He was on 670 The Score on Saturday, and I tweeted from our account like some
nuggets that he pointed out, there was some good stuff in there related to guys who are already on the team, whether in the minors or, guys like Morel. They talked about Morel a lot too with Bruce Levine. So, it was interesting stuff.
for where we're at in the offseason, at least.
Well, here's what I thought. So Cody tipped me off. He said, listen, I did like a thread, CHGO Cubs. If you want to go back and find out more about this Banner interview, all you got to do is look at our thread, right?
Basically. You can go listen to it, but
you can listen to it.
You can also look at our thread.
Or you could listen to it while you're looking at our thread because you might want to fast forward through some of it. Anyways, it's all on there, and I'm going through it, and basically Jared Banner's high on everybody. And, we'll talk about PCA for a little bit, but Banner on Mervis, he mentions the name Rizzo along with Mervis. I don't think it's the first, rookie to struggle, yada, yada. Then on Wicks, this is the quote that made me decide. I all I needed to know from the whole interview. Wicks, and I don't doubt this is true, but I'm just saying, he's having a great offseason. He's in the best shape of his life. And with that quote, we have officially entered the slowest part of the Cubs offseason.
Well,
that's rock bottom right there.
That is early for best shape of your life
supposed
territory.
to be That's supposed to be every player at spring training is like, I've never been in this good a shape. Even the guy that's 38
is early.
Yeah.
Never felt this good.
Go ahead.
Well, I know we want to talk about PCA, and I'm sure maybe you'll.
I'm just looking in the Banner thread too. So.
What I was really intrigued by, and our prospect friends like Greg Huss and Greg Zumack and anyone else that I'm missing, Brian Smith, they would give me a lot of credit for saying this. But what I really liked what Banner said was what he said about Michael Arias, who is a position player that they've turned into a pitcher. Who his quote said, the quote he had from that is, he really burst on the scene for us last year, throwing 100 miles per hour, is a really special changeup as well, knows how to pitch, and we're just really excited about his future. So much that we added him to our 40-man roster. One thing that really jumps out to me about him is there is not a lot of mileage on his arm because he is so new to pitching. There's a lot of projectability there and room for him to continue growing. But the sky's the limit with him, and we can't wait to get him back down to Arizona and continue working with him. So he's really young. I don't know. I think 2025 is probably the earliest that we might see him. But it just kind of goes back into the pitching infrastructure that the Cubs have. And we could sit here and complain about, you can't rely on prospects this, prospects that. But it is kind of impressive that they took a position player and have developed him to this point, to a point to where they're confident enough to put him on the 40-man roster so no one else can take him in the Rule 5 draft potentially or anything like that. I don't know when we'll actually really see him, but I'm just saying that there is a lot of things to like about how they're doing things organizationally that we all used to bitch about, during the really good years that the Cubs were having.
I mean, that's the thing in squaring this whole offseason when we're talking about impatience and stuff like that. They have done a really good job in areas like that in development. I think MLB Pipeline had them at 2 behind the Orioles. Was that MLB Pipeline? One of those prospect ranking system had that at 2 in the whole league.
I saw that on BR. Yeah.
They have done a good job of that, but ultimately there's still the process of developing those guys after their prospects and integrating them into the major leagues and having them be successful and then continuing to grow as an organization. That's just one part of it. So I'm glad that they've done that. They've done a really good job of that, but it's only one part of the equation. And even listening to Banner, looking at his quote on Matt Mervis, he said, quote, he's not the first young player to have some struggles in their debut. If you look back, I think of Anthony Rizzo and the way he started and then what he turned into. I get videos of him all the time, and he's putting in the work. My issue with that is what happened last year then? Was that a David Ross thing? Because you didn't really learn anything about Matt Mervis. You basically made no progress. Maybe you learned that I know some people in the chat for sure and reading social media just are out on him. They don't believe in him. They overhype, whatever. But that's where I get a little confused. He didn't immediately start with the team. When he did come up, he got 120 plate appearances sporadically, and then sent down once he needed to work on stuff so that Trey Mancini could start on July 28th. So when I'm reading this, it's when are you going to... So now we would enter another season where you'd have to bring him up and maybe he's going to struggle again. It just seems like a bunch of wasted time. And this is also, you could have brought him up in the fall of 2022 when none of this mattered. So I guess I just get I get annoyed by quotes like that because I'm how long are you planning on like figuring this out with him? Like it didn't seem to be a priority at all last year. So like, when is it going to be a priority?
Related to Mervis, if my memory is correct me if I'm wrong, chat or anyone else, but I believe Mervis got demoted when Bellinger came back, and Tauchman was playing so well that they kept him up. They easily could have moved on from someone else, Tucker Barnhart, whoever. They easily could have and should have. And I'm not saying that I'm, if you go back, I was someone who thought that they sent him back down way too early. I thought he was starting to figure some things out in the last couple games before he got sent down. I believe he hit a home run like 1 or 2 games before he got sent down in San Francisco. But I'm with you in terms of the fact that like it is confusing, because like you just can't decide if a guy is a guy or not in 100 at bats with the way that baseball works, man.
Well, and like I understood the reasoning. Like, eventually they found themselves back in a playoff race, so you had to make certain decisions that were prioritizing it. I totally understand that. And I, to be honest with you, I don't really care very much about Matt Mervis. That's my position on the matter. I'm saying when he says that and is like, hey, he struggled in his debut, but we believe in him, we're getting this work. It's like, how long are you going to like give him to try and figure out if he can? You don't have time to do that. If you want to compete, you can't still be figuring guys out. You kind of need to know what they can do. And if you didn't do that last year, when are you going to do it? The one quote that I think everybody's going to look at in this interview, though, is when he was asked about free agency and trade stuff. And again, if they have stuff cooking, he's not going to say this, but you want people to get pissed off. We can, sort of like start wrapping up the show on this. He said, it's a complicated process, and sometimes the prices of players we want aren't in line with what we're comfortable in paying at the time. It takes 2 to tango. You need a dance partner. We haven't found that dance partner yet, but the party's still going. It's a daily process. Trust me, we want to improve the team as much as I know our fans do, and we're very confident that we'll be able to. It's just a question of how and when. That doesn't have to be their real mentality behind the scenes. That can be what they put out in the media, but that is I think somebody said that it's a loser mentality. It just is.
It is.
Like that is not the mentality that when you say we're the damn Chicago Cubs, that attitude does not square with that at all. So when I was listening, I was like, okay. Yeah. I hope you have a different attitude behind the scenes.
Yeah, not great. What is great though, Cody, is Empire. Let me tell you. Empire Today, you get to shop at home convenience with the right product for your needs, quick and professional installation, and a low price guarantee. Empire Today is the place to get new flooring. So, of course, there's other copycats out there, but they can't live up to the hype because Empire is a one of a kind. You can go to the big box store if you want to, but you'll probably get a guy that was selling toilets the day before, and he was probably in lumber the day before that, and he might have been out selling Christmas trees the day before that, and now he's trying to tell you which carpet's the best. Not a great idea. Empire, all they do is flooring, and they've got this great virtual floor designer out there. Great way to see how new floors look in any space. You just snap a picture, and it shows you what it would look like in your space. So schedule a free home in-estimate today. All listeners receive a $350 off discount when they use the promo code CHGO. Restrictions apply. See EmpireToday.com/CHGO for details. And let me tell you, it's also getting easier for businesses these days to switch to electric vehicles. If you haven't noticed, that's something we can all get behind for the health of the planet, or also for the well-being of all of us who happen to share this beautiful round globe.
Yeah, the electric grid is evolving to meet your cleaner energy needs as we all move with confidence toward an electric tomorrow. Whether you have one delivery van or a whole fleet of shipping trucks, ComEd can help guide you to make the changes that make sense.
So what should business owners do here, Cody?
Well, they should go to ComEd.com/clean, Luke, and they can learn more about the resources, fleet rebates, and infrastructure incentives available to help businesses go electric. If you own a business, don't wait. Start making your plan today to switch to electric vehicles. Good for business, good for the planet, good for all of us. Go to ComEd.com/clean.
I just fell asleep waiting for the Cubs to do something, and it turns out, Cody, did you say while I was snoozing, ComEd.com/clean?
Yeah, Luke, wake up. It's ComEd.com/clean, brother. Go now and see how going electric connects us to a better way of doing business and a better future for generations to come.
Beautiful.
Before we get out of here,
just
related to that thread, the one thing that outside of the Arias thing, I did think it was really awesome to hear that PCA is in Arizona, like working with Dustin Kelly.
Yeah.
And I don't know about people in the chat, but I love Dustin Kelly. Like, I've said this about the coaching staff all offseason. Like, as long as Hadavi and Dustin Kelly are here, I don't really care who else is here. Like, in terms of like the people outside of council. Like, I don't really care. As long as those two guys are here. I don't know how much Dustin Kelly gets credit to helping Bellinger get back to the way to the player that he is or was, whatever. But I like to think that he had a major impact in helping Bellinger transform his game, because he used to not really be like the professional hitter that he is now. You know what I mean? Like, he was a home run guy, but now, like, he still has the slug. He still almost hit 30 bombs last year, but he also, like you said earlier, the 2-strike approach and his ability to just, get on base any way possible, whether it's hitting or, he took walks too. So I would love to see what Dustin Kelly can do with PCA.
Yeah, and I think
who really struggled in September.
Yeah, and we've talked about PCA's first stint and all of that a lot, but I think if anything that you can take away from it that's a positive is that you do see right away some stuff that he obviously immediately needs to adjust to. And I think one of those things was velocity up in the zone. You saw him struggle with that, and you can get to work on that immediately. So I think, we debated how much he should have been playing and this, that, and the other at the time, but even a small sample gives you stuff that he can work on. And when you see your top prospect working in December in Arizona, I think you have to be pleased about that. As
shows the
as a
work
fan.
ethic, how he wants to be like a guy that helps take this team to the next level.
I don't question any of it. That's why he's, part of the reason that he's the Cubs' top prospect. He's shown the ability to continue to grow at each level he goes to. This is the hardest jump to make, so he's going to have to put in the most work to make that happen, and I'm confident he will do that. By the way, Godfather said he used the code Empire. He said he just had him out to the house. They love CHGO, and the code works. That means
absolutely
$350
$350
saved
off.
The Godfather $350.
Credit to us. Now I'll forgive you for all your Christopher Morel slander yesterday.
Take it all back.
I take it all back. Respectfully.
Yeah, of course, respectfully. Thanks to everybody in the live YouTube chat. Please hit the thumbs up button on the way out. We're back here tomorrow live at 1:20 with another fresh edition of the CHGO Cubs podcast. That is, of course, unless there's breaking news tonight, like a Bellinger signing, maybe
otherwise we'll be here to talk about
the
nothing.
Cubs. Otherwise, we're back to talk about nothing with all of you tomorrow.
Can't wait.
And we're looking forward to it. Thanks for checking out the CHGO Cubs podcast. Until tomorrow at 1:20, fly the W.
We all silly like the mayor.